Welcome to the Elevate Podcast. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. Happy to be on here with you. We are going to be joined by the amazing, illustrious Franco Terrazzano, the federal director of the Taxpayers Federation, who had an article just drop yesterday, and it got people's eyebrows a little bit raised. People had some questions. People were wondering what the heck was even this about, and this was the article in question. It says, the number of staff at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation collecting six-figure salaries has more than doubled since 2015. According to access to information records obtained by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, taxpayers don't need all these extra CBC employees taking six-figure salaries, said Franco Terrazzano, CTF Federal Director. The government should save money by taking air out of its highly paid bureaucracy, and that includes crown corporations like the CBC. In 24-25, over 1,800 CBC employees took a six-figure salary according to the records obtained by the CTF. Those salaries cost taxpayers about $240 million last year for an average salary of $131,000 for those employees. It was a spicy one. It's been a wild one. Franco, happy to have you on here with me, sir.
Hey man, my pleasure. Great to chat with you again. It's been a minute.
Yeah, I think it's been a bit over a year. But it's so great to be able to talk to you in this context because this dropped today, and this was a bit wild. It caught my attention, and I immediately texted you. I was like, I don't even know if he's going to remember me, but I'm going to throw the text in anyways and see how it goes. And I'm like, dude, this is insane. A, when did you find this out? And B, when did you find this out? First off.
Well, I mean, look, I got the access to information request back, I think a couple weeks ago. But we just been very busy with our Teddy Waste Awards. I don't know if you saw that, but we give out the big golden pig trophies to politicians and bureaucrats that waste your money. But you know what's crazy about all of this? Like, I'll get into the numbers in a second, but what's so crazy is that none of this is proactively published online. Right? The federal government does not have a sunshine list. So the vast majority of provinces, they have sunshine lists, right? It's transparency 101. We pay the bills as taxpayers. We deserve to know, how many government employees are collecting those big six-figure salaries. Well, the federal government doesn't do that. So the reason that we have these numbers is because the Canadian Taxpayers Federation filed that access to information request. And these numbers are staggering, man. Like more than 1,800 CBC employees are taking a six-figure salary, base salary of more than $100,000. Like, forget all the other benefits that come with it. And every single year, you have seen the CBC Sunshine List increase, okay? Back in 2015, there were 438 employees with a six-figure salary at the state broadcaster. Now there's 1,800. That's a 318% increase, all paid for by the taxpayer.
Well, it does kind of bring me to another question. Though, you got this for the access to information request, but do we know what roles these people fulfill at this point?
No, none. All you get, all you get is year, number of staff making more than $100,000, and the total cost to taxpayer. So this government is about as transparent as a coconut. You know what I mean? Like the transparency is just not there. I mean, the other thing that we know is the total cost of these salaries, right? So for these six-figure salaries, it's costing taxpayers $240 million just for these employees, right? Just for these employees. The average salary of those employees was like $131,000. But I mean, you're not given really any information on what role they do or anything like that. We're just given the number of employees and the total cost.
And this is actually fairly interesting information based on what happened with Travis Outrage that came out earlier this week, where there was, it was found out he was the whistleblower on this, where there's clearly an agenda behind the scenes and the way they operate, and they actually aren't typically operating in the whole public's interest. So the fact that they were getting billed this much with taxpayer money is a bit frustrating, I would imagine be. And I imagine I can hear it in your voice as someone who looks at the stuff on the regular. I can hear the frustration on your end as well.
Well, of course. I mean, number one, we're all just frustrated that we're paying for a state broadcaster, right? Like, why do we have a state broadcaster? I mean, look how easy it is. It's never been easier for people to access information, right? Through media look what the conversation you and I are having and the thousands and thousands of people that are watching it through your channel. Like, it's never been easier. It's never been more cost effective to get different types of discourse and the news, right? And look, I'm talking about these six-figure salaries, but the real behemoth that is a state broadcaster is so much more expensive for taxpayers beyond just these salaries, right? The CBC costs taxpayers more than $1.4 billion every single year. More than $1 billion every single year. And not just that, you might remember before the federal election, you even had the heritage minister at the time musing about almost doubling the funding to the CBC to almost $2.5 billion a year. And not only that, they wanted to bake the funding into law. They wanted to remove it from the budget. So every single year, they would just keep getting more and more money without members of parliament actually voting on it because it would be legislated into law. So not only would it cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars more every single year, but you take away that fundamental principle of democracy and accountability.
Absolutely. And if you look at the stats, I think what I was looking at earlier, the average salary for the average person across the country is around $56,000 per year right now. So right now, what you just said is we've been adding more and more employees to the payroll at the CBC who are getting paid almost over double what people are making typically in this country. That's astronomical at this point. And so,
well, yeah, right. And like, I just want to point out these 1,800 CBC staffers, that's not all the CBC staff. Right, that's just the 1,800 is just the CBC staff that are taking a salary of more than $100,000.
Right,
that's it. That's just the base salary for those 1,800 employees that are taking more than that are taking six-figure salaries. But like, there's two things on top of it, right? You have all the other benefits that come with some of these types of jobs, but also there's just the other staff that are also a part of the CBC that aren't making six figures.
Absolutely. And so you dropped this information yesterday, Friday, essentially you put this out there. It really blew up on social media. Unfortunately, it stinks because it got released right after Trump said, we're going to bring 35% tariffs. So it's a little bit buried to a degree, but we want to bring it back here for the weekend. So where at the Taxpayers Federation, what do you do with this information at this point? Like, at this point, you figure this out, you're saying, ringing the bell on it. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. So, sometimes a lot of the initial job is to kind of do what we're doing here, right? Dig up the information, talk to folks like you, talk to other people in different media outlets, right? To bring up this type of information. But then another thing that we do is we have, CTF supporters who are on our emailing list who are engaged with us regularly. We get them to, email certain politicians, and then we can really force the issue onto the national agenda. Okay, you might remember this. Remember when the former CBC president, Catherine Tate, remember when she handed out millions of dollars in bonuses and at the same time she was announcing hundreds of layoffs just before Christmas?
Yep. Well,
that became a national issue where Tate at the time was being brought back and forth into Parliament at these committees. Well, the reason people knew about the bonuses is because the CTF dug up that information as well through access to information requests. But we dug up that information like a year before all of this happened. So what we have to keep doing is we have to keep banging the drum, and that's how you slowly get change here in Canada's parliamentary system.
100%, especially when we start seeing at this point where we're summertime. Like, this is big information. This is really important to know, but summertime, they all went on break, and apparently in the biggest issue that our country's ever faced in our lives, they're on vacation right now, and we won't be getting anything in Parliament until the fall. So is that kind of the strategy right now, is get this out initially and then, as you said, keep banging the drum as you get into the fall here?
Well, we're always putting out different waste stories. Like every week, essentially, we have a new waste story like this. But you also have to remember too, like sometimes while our politicians are on holidays during the summertime, like you still got to feed the beast, right? So now sometimes it's actually easier to actually get information in front of people because the day-to-day, the House of Commons nonsense, the circus, well, they're taking a couple months off. So now is actually a decent time to start getting some of this information out there. But then, of course, it's not over when you get the information out. That's when the hard work begins of just banging the drum, letting people know over and over again, this is how they're spending our money. Hey, can I also bring up another kind of interesting point here, right? Because we're talking about the CBC Sunshine List, but the federal government itself, like the actual bureaucracy of the federal government, they also have a bunch of overpaid bureaucrats, okay? So look, another access to information request that we filed, it showed that more than 110,000 bureaucrats are getting a six-figure salary. More than 110,000 bureaucrats. That's like a third of the entire federal government with a six-figure paycheck.
Gee, This is the reality, Franco, because this is what really hit me. We met at CSFN, a year and a half ago at this point.
Yeah.
And what really struck me was that was my first time in Ottawa in the political realm. And at this point in time, it was the Trudeau era. I couldn't believe this. It was a weird juxtaposition. Seeing all the people on the street that you were essentially walking over to be able to get to restaurants there on the main strip near Parliament. And then you look at all the restaurants on that street, I think it was Wellington, and they're filled with people who work in politics, who have the money to spend. And then you look out in the street right outside these stores, and there's like just people on the street. It was really kind of something to watch. And I realized that Ottawa really was its own little bubble where they live in their own world because they're getting that 6-figure paycheck.
Oh, yeah. The political bubble of Ottawa is so detached from reality. And it's actually funny you brought that up because that was what really struck me when I first moved to Ottawa about over 4 years now. I moved from Calgary to Ottawa, and it was crazy to me, how you have all these fancy parties, everyone's so important, everyone's so special. And then you walk literally 3 blocks away, and it's really sad. It's really sad to see, some of the issues that the people that you refer to are going through. But it really is such a dichotomy between, the people who just think they're so fancy, who are living it up on the taxpayer dime, and really everyone else.
100%. Couldn't agree more. And I'll leave it at this. Is where can people find more of your information and the work that you're currently doing?
Well, look, hey, first of all, I just want to say I really appreciate you having me on. You have a conversation with you and your audience. I really want to say thank you for that. Look, the best place to go is taxpayer.com. That's our website. You'll see all the different way stories, the newsroom, petitions, all that kind of stuff there, taxpayer.com. If you also want to follow us on social media, we're always posting. You can just type in Canadian Taxpayers Federation. That's a pretty easy way to find us on social media. Or if you want to follow me on Twitter or X, or whatever you're calling it, I'm at Franco_nomics. But those are good places to, yeah.
Love it. And I'll leave with the last question, just a little bit of fun one, keep it light, how long you been working with the Taxpayer Federation for now?
Coming up on 7 years.
7 years. You've been doing this a while.
Yeah.
Uncovering a lot, putting a lot of access to information requests in. What at this point is one of the craziest stories that you've uncovered in your 7 years?
Okay, yeah. I actually got a couple. I got two. Both from Global Affairs Canada. Okay, Global Affairs. Now, they might be the worst waste offender in all of government, and that is saying a lot. Like, that's saying a lot. Okay, so Global Affairs, they spent $8,800 on a sex toy show in Germany.
Gee.
Yeah, $8,800 on a sex toy show in Germany. Okay, and the title of the show was "Whose Jizz Is This?"
Gee.
Like, maybe I'm a little old-fashioned, I don't know, but if the Germans want to have a sex toy show, how about they pay for it themselves and not be, not using taxpayers' money from Canada to have it. The other one, which is even crazier, Global Affairs spent $12,000, so senior citizens in other countries could talk about their sex lives in front of live audiences, and like, these aren't even Canadian seniors, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to the government of Canada, where they're outsourcing old people sex stories.
That's insane. Holy
it's insane.
Jumping. Well, I can only imagine the frustration you're feeling, but you're doing such tremendous work, Franco. Really appreciate your time coming on.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
No problem. And that was Franco Terrazzano with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Thank you so much for joining us. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.